The detention facility on Kepler 442b was designed to break the strongest wills in the galaxy. Its crystalline walls hummed with psychic dampeners, and its corridors echoed with the despair of 1,000 conquered species. When they dragged Marcus Chen through its gates, the Zephyrian guards expected another routine psychological dismantling. They were wrong. Commander Vextel observed the human through the translucent barrier of Cell Block 7. The prisoner sat cross-legged on the metal floor, eyes closed, breathing steady. It had been 3 standard rotations since his capture, and the human showed no signs of the usual deterioration patterns. "Increase the neural disruptors," Vextel ordered Guard Captain Threndo. The chitinous alien's mandibles clicked nervously. "Sir, we're already at maximum safe levels. Any higher and do it." The frequency intensified, a bone-deep vibration that had reduced hardened Martok warriors to gibbering wrecks. Marcus opened his eyes, smiled slightly, and began humming what sounded like an ancient Earth melody. Through the prison's quantum mesh communication system, his voice carried to every cell block. Within minutes, other prisoners, beings from dozens of different worlds, began humming along, creating a harmony that somehow neutralized the neural disruptor's effects. Warden Krivash materialized in the observation chamber, his translucent form rippling with irritation. "Explain this failure, Commander." "The human exhibits unprecedented resistance to standard braking protocols," Vextal replied, his 3 eyes fixed on Marcus. "Perhaps we should try the isolation chambers." "Already attempted. He spent 14 rotations in complete sensory deprivation." Krivash's form darkened. "When we opened the chamber, he was performing what he called meditation exercises and asked if we had any books." The conversation was interrupted by laughter, genuine, infectious laughter echoing through the prison corridors. Marcus had somehow convinced Guard Zixlin to play what appeared to be a game using small stones. The young Zephyrian's usual stoic demeanor had cracked, and he was actually enjoying himself. "Discipline Guard Zixlin immediately," Vextal commanded. But as the rotations passed, the problem spread. Marcus treated every interrogation session like a conversation with an old friend. He asked about the guards' families, their homeworlds, their hopes and fears. When Guard Polmek mentioned missing his offspring, Marcus spent hours teaching him origami, the ancient earth art of paper folding, using scraps smuggled from the prison library. "The human appears to be collecting them," reported Dr. Yathara, the facility's chief psychologist. Her serpentine form coiled nervously around the briefing room's central pillar. "He demonstrates genuine interest in their personal struggles and offers emotional support." "It's unprecedented." "It's a manipulation tactic," Vextal insisted. "Humans are known for their deceptive capabilities." "Sir," interrupted Threndo, entering the chamber with obvious reluctance, "we have a situation." On the main display screen, they watched in horror as Marcus sat surrounded by 8 different guards during what should have been his daily exercise period. He was teaching them a collaborative song, each guard contributing sounds from their native languages. The resulting harmony was beautiful. Guard Nexwin, a typically aggressive Saurian warrior, was laughing so hard at Marcus's attempt to pronounce his name that tears streamed down his scaled cheeks. Guard Phelia had braided tiny flowers into her tentacles, flowers that Marcus had somehow cultivated in his cell using scraps of organic waste and pure determination. "He's teaching them that game again," observed Dr. Yathara, "the one with the interlocking wooden pieces." "Chess," corrected Intelligence Officer Mordek. "I've researched it. It's a strategic game that supposedly teaches tactical thinking and patience, but the way the human plays it, he helps his opponents improve, rather than simply defeating them." The final straw came during Marcus's scheduled interrogation session. Commander Vextel had prepared his most aggressive psychological assault, complete with holographic projections of Earth's destruction and fabricated evidence of humanity's defeat. Marcus listened patiently, nodded thoughtfully, then asked, "Would you like to talk about what's really bothering you?" What?" "You've been carrying a lot of stress lately. Your posture, the way you interact with your subordinates, that slight tremor in your primary manipulator appendage. You're dealing with something heavy. Sometimes it helps to talk." 3 hours later, Vextel found himself explaining his fears about the war, his doubts about Zephyrian expansion policies, and his guilt over the destruction they'd caused across the galaxy. Marcus listened without judgment, offered perspectives Vexitel had never considered, and somehow helped him see possibilities for peace that didn't involve conquest. When the emergency recall came, Earth forces had broken the Zephyrian blockade. Warden Krivash faced an unprecedented crisis. Half his guard force had requested transfers to Diplomatic Corps. Another quarter had submitted formal protests against the prison's treatment protocols. The remaining guards were openly weeping at the news of Marcus's impending release. "This is unacceptable," Krivash raged. "One human has corrupted an entire facility." "With respect, sir," Guard Captain Threndo said quietly, "he hasn't corrupted anyone. He's just shown us who we could be." As Marcus walked through the prison gates, 17 guards accompanied him, not as captors, but as friends. They carried his few possessions, shared stories of their homeworlds, and promised to visit Earth once the war ended. Guard Zixlen handed Marcus a small origami crane made from metallic prison paper. "To remember us," he said softly. Marcus smiled, the same gentle expression that had first confused his captors. "How could I forget? You taught me more about the universe than any textbook ever could." Behind them, the detention facility stood empty for the first time in 3 centuries, not because it had been destroyed or abandoned, but because it was no longer needed. The guards who remained had voted unanimously to convert it into a cultural exchange center. Commander Vextal, now wearing the insignia of a peace negotiator, shook his head in amazement. "In all our species' history, we never imagined warfare could end with friendship." Marcus paused at his shuttle's boarding ramp, looking back at the unlikely collection of alien friends who'd gathered to see him off. "That's the thing about humans," he said. "We're really, really good at making friends, even when we're not trying to." As his shuttle lifted off toward Earth, the former guards waved with appendages, tentacles, and manipulator arms raised high against the alien sunset. They'd learned something from their human prisoner, something their species had forgotten in millennia of conquest. They'd learned that sometimes the strongest weapon isn't meant to break others. Sometimes it's meant to build bridges.